Good morning, Mega Momentum. How's it going, everybody? We have a very special guest with us today, Lisa Harris. How you doing, Anthony?
Hey
Hi
man, what's
there.
going on? What's going on, Lisa? How you doing?
Hey, Lisa.
Coffee
Awesome.
time. I'll show you all my stuff. Probably at some point, someone's gonna ask me about all these stickers, and we'll talk about that later at some point.
Have a cup of coffee. Go grab a coffee
All
out
right,
there.
grab
All
your
right.
coffee. We're about to talk some real estate, and guys, we got an exciting guest today, and she's I want to thank her again for jumping on. We had a last minute cancellation. One of our scheduled guests, and no worries, Lisa's jumping in, and I'm excited. Got to we have a lot of common friends on Facebook. We haven't been friends yet, so I'm excited to finally get to know you better. And I just kind of did a brief rundown of your business and looking at it, and I love it. Tell everybody, Lisa, who you are, what you do. Talk to us a little bit.
Sure. So I have a team in Columbia, South Carolina. We are not a huge mega metropolitan area. We would be what you would call middle America, average little market here.
Nothing wrong with that.
Our average price point here is just under 200,000. And I started the business in 2014 as a single agent, and I was rookie of the year my first year because I was going to quote unquote dabble in the business.
Dabble.
Yeah, right.
And apparently I don't dabble real well because I ended up with 33 transactions and $4.5 million in volume my first year in the business.
Wow.
So I figured out I was pretty good at what I set out to do, and hired my first admin after that, started a team, and my next year in the business ended up doubling that volume and doing about 65 transactions my second year. And from there, my third year, looked at my husband, who was partners in a restaurant pretty much the majority of his life, and said, okay, you have business skills that I need. Figure out what you need to do to get out of the restaurant business so we can have a life, because I was drowning.
Right.
And I hired a showing assistant, and I got him out of the restaurant business by replacing his income. And from there, we have built a team. We now have a team of 8 here in Columbia, South Carolina. And our average, we typically do around 125 transactions to 135 transactions last year. This year, we're on target. We'll do probably closer to the 160 in transactions. And for us, that's around about close to $30 million, between $28 and $30 million in volume for the year.
Wow.
That's not too
So
shabby.
we also have an expansion team in Florida, and we have an agent there, and we actually got his brother in the business who's a retired police officer, and he has a team in Florida. So we're kind of keeping it all in the family.
Gotcha. What part of Florida?
His brother's in the Tampa, St. Pete, all the way down to the Sarasota area.
Right,
And then
nice.
his daughter's in the business, and that's our expansion partner. And she is on Port St. Lucie, West Palm area.
West Palm, gotcha. Yeah, we have some. We're doing the same thing. We're kind of going into that Florida, West Palm Beach, also too. We have an agent coming on board, so good stuff. Wait, Dustin, real quick, man. I don't see the YouTube live. Are we live on YouTube right now? I just wanted to point that out real quick, and then so Lisa, tell us what.
That looks like it, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay,
Keep going.
okay. Good. Lisa, what I wanted to say. Shoot, lost our train of thought now. Oh, what? Okay, second year team admin. Talk to us about that. That's what again, like a lot of our chats have been team based related. And single agents growing these massively big teams are really cool stuff. Tell us a little bit what kind of. I know you said you were drowning. Got your husband on board. Hey, talk to us about that transition. And what I do love, I want to point out, I want to make sure you talk about is hiring that first admin. Something you told me right away.
It is really, really, really key. And I tell everyone, I have a lot of people that reach out to me often that say, hey, I want to start a team. I want to do it like you did. What's first step? What does that look like? And I always am very, very clear that you don't need to start a team until you get to the place that you can't handle what you have on your plate, number one. Yeah. And typically the general rule of thumb they usually will tell you is if you should be able to handle in a year 35 to 40 transactions on your own. Yeah. And still be able to complete all those tasks. Now you may have to leverage some things out in order to do that. And what I mean by that is you may have to hire somebody to help you with some of your closing coordination for a few of those transactions, because you may have multiple transactions going on at the same time in the peak of season. But don't get to the place that you say, okay, let's go hire an admin right away. No. It's an expense you don't need. And until you actually have some reserves put away where you have at least 3 months worth of what would be their probationary period time for their income, don't go put yourself in the hole. And that process for me, now let me be very clear. I've had coaches through my entire career. From the time I started in 2014, I've never done this business without a coach. And that's been key because they've guided me through a lot of those pieces that otherwise I wouldn't have known. And I had great business background and marketing experience whenever I got into this crazy world of real estate, but that is not necessarily the only answer, and having a good coach has been key. So when I sat down with my coach and I said, this is where I'm at and I'm drowning and, doing these 33 transactions my first year all by myself and was leveraging what I could out, the key in hiring that first person was making sure that, number one, it was the right hire, and hiring is not easy and it is not simple. And it takes time. And here you are as an agent in the midst of this total chaos, trying to figure out, don't hire out of desperation is the biggest thing I want to tell you. Just don't do it. And take the time to take a few steps back in order to take mega steps forward. And it's worth that time to be able to hire the right person. And a lot of people go, well, I need a buyer's agent. No, you don't. Because a buyer's agent is not going to stay with you if you don't have the right support to help that buyer's agent. The key in hiring that admin for your first position is making sure that you have the support for any other members on your team that as you grow that team down the road, and making sure that you can pass off the pieces that you need to get done to get paid, because those are key. You gotta make a living, and they're time consuming. And honestly, that's not my gift. That's not my forte. That is not what I'm good at. I'm good at being able to walk someone through that process and get them to a place of decision in order for me to be able to get them to closing on what their dream goal in real estate is. So the idea of me being the paper pusher on the back end is not the best use of my time. And I've had some people say, well, hire an hourly person to do that. And it's not always just hiring the hourly person. Sometimes it's about hiring the right person with the right skill set that still has the customer service, because you've got to provide a high level of customer service. Yep. They don't want to feel like they're being passed off to a paper pusher. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is for you to be able to hire someone that you can still have an extension of yourself to provide a 5-star experience.
Yeah, someone that cares.
Somebody that cares just as much as you do. But
yes.
you drop so many different little nuggets.
I know, right, dude? I'm like trying to write down as fast as I can.
Okay. There's 2 or 3 things that we want to talk about now. So, don't hire an admin just because you don't want to do the work, right?
Right.
Don't hire an admin out of laziness, or don't hire an admin out of desperation.
Right.
It has to make sense. And quite frankly, if you're a top producing realtor and you need to offset some of the labor, then you need to be hiring an admin with intention that fits your culture, that fits the consumer experience that you want to deliver. And you're right. Most of the time, a top performing agent gets to the point where that I need to hire an admin when they're in the middle of their crazy busy season too, right?
Right.
Sometimes you can apply a little forethought and hire your admin, get them trained prior to the busy season, because you know that you're going to have the transactions, you're going to be drowning, right? So a lot of times, when I'm coaching agents and I'm recommending, listen, you need to hire an admin, you're already doing 40, 50 deals a year. That's a lot. I've seen agents do up to 60 and still provide a good quality experience.
Yep. Right.
But that is like a hyper planner, a very, somebody that's so detailed, somebody anal.
They're still, if they're doing that many, they're still leveraging certain pieces. Like, for instance, they're leveraging the taking of photographs, or they're leveraging putting the sign in. They're leveraging some of those other pieces in order to do that number.
I thought that was a given, right? Who likes to plant signs? Who's an
No. When I did those 33, I was doing all that.
Oh man, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was crazy insane. My husband would come home from work from the restaurant, and at 9 o'clock at night. Now, keep in mind, at this time I had 2 kids. I'm putting kids to bed and going back to my computer once my kids are in bed.
Yeah.
And so it was total chaos that first year, because I would be putting listings in at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. My husband would come in and go to bed, and he would come back at 1 o'clock in the morning and goes, "Why are you still sitting in front of your computer?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was not a quality of life.
First year is awesome. Year 1 is awesome. But you plowed the road and you did like 33 did you say 33?
33 transactions. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know what, let's talk about, well, you know what, let's talk about that a little bit. Like hiring an admin, that's pretty advanced. Like a lot of the people that we target in coaching are the people that are wanting to get to that position. They want to get to the point where they're forced and they've earned hiring an administrative assistant of one kind or another to be able to help them offset some of the labor. And you did that very, very quickly. What was, if you could say there was 1 or 2 things that was the reason why, like what, not very many new people get rookie of the year. Not very many people in the first year do over 24 transactions. Like there's
not many at all.
Well, yeah, there's systems and processes. And if you have a coach, yes, like I've coached people how to get to 24, 36 sales in their first year, for sure. But without that foreknowledge, without that, you know, coach sitting on the sidelines helping you out, it's difficult. So how did you do it in your first year?
So my very first year in the business, they gave me the nickname of the door knocking queen. And I was an open house phenomenon, and door knocking was my pleasure. Now, I say that kind of almost in tongue in cheek because it's hard. And I still, to this day, my team and I still go door knock. And as a matter of fact, we're getting ready to do a massive door knock to go find some listings over the next few weeks, because we're so listing poor right now. And so I will tell you that still to this day, for me to go door knock, you think, oh, you got this. You're a mega agent. You've done this so many times. I still get nervous.
Yeah.
I still have to sit in my car and psych myself up to go get out of the car to take those flyers to go knock on the door.
It is.
And
I'll tell you, we door knocked a lot too, Lisa. Same thing. We door knocked neighborhoods, held open houses, and you're exactly right. It's nerve wracking. You got to stack, like we do like 1,000 flyers, and you do have to hype yourself up. Remember, no lie, we actually went and bought like uniforms. We were wearing like shorts and like almost like the same shit, and it kind of scoured the neighborhood. But it is, and I'll tell you what a lot of real estate agents do with door knocking, they don't actually knock.
No.
They put the flyer on, and then I'll never forget. We're walking.
They call it fake door knocking. They cheat.
Right.
They just put the flyer there and run away.
There was a windy morning in New Orleans. I'll never forget, man. And like I'm walking in the street, and I'm like, what the? Why is 40 of our flyers blowing down the street? So one, it is like, I mean, so true, but it does. It's just like people who do cold calling, prospecting, lead generation. I mean, that's lead generation, and it only works if you talk to somebody. Will that person see the flyer? Absolutely. But I'll tell you, huge difference. Actually physically knocking, walking the door. And it's uncomfortable. You catch people sometime in their robes and dogs.
You know, and I've had them where they go, did you not see the sign on the door? It says no soliciting.
Yep.
No, I've had every scenario.
And I'll tell you, I'm not soliciting. I said, I'm a local real estate agent. I'm here as a friend trying to help you. I'll never forget. I'll tell you one story about door knocking, guys. One of my agents, we were in Lakeview, New Orleans neighborhood. And it was Jamie Johnson. I don't know if she's listening, but we're friends on Facebook. I'll never forget this. So we're door knocking, and all of a sudden a guy answers the phone. He's got a little dachshund in his hand, and Jamie's like, oh, look at the little dog. And the dog bites the hell out of her. Split her hand wide open, bleeding everywhere. We had to go. I mean, so I got some stories door knocking, but it's a battle. You know, and you got to have a certain mindset going in, a certain mentality, certain intention, because it's just like, you know, someone will slam a door in your face, just like they will hang up the phone on you.
Yeah, for sure.
But the good ones, when you get the good one and you actually score, it's an adrenaline rush. It's fun. It makes it exciting. And sometimes when you get those people that slam the door in your face, it's actually kind of fun too, because I've had circumstances where I have actually taken the flyer back out of someone's hand when they've been rude to me. And I said, I am so sorry. I don't want to invite you to my open house because I don't want someone with that attitude coming.
Or another
I was
agent.
just trying to help. And they said, hey, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And they've asked me to come back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was just trying to invite you for cookies and lemonade to the open house so you could find out what the home
Cookies,
values were
lemonade,
like.
heck yeah.
But if you're going to be mean, I don't want you to come and disturb the neighbors.
No, absolutely. You know what? I'll tell you. I used to actually run a door knock company. I started off by myself, and I ended up in 4 different major cities with 200 feet on the street. You guys want to talk about stories of door knocking? I can share, share some stories. Right, 20-year-old naked woman comes to the front door and answers the door. Hi, how you doing? My name is Dr. Christian. I'm trying to sell you something. And I got my pitch out, and she stayed there. That's a story. Anyways, I'll tell you. Like, as far as door knocking, it's probably the single best way to get your ass in front of people to talk about real estate.
So true.
I actually did a study based on like flyers and phone calls and everything else, and your return on time is higher on door knocking than any other medium out there, period. Right? You are physically in front of somebody. They can see and feel your body language.
Yep.
You have a captured audience.
It's an easy connection.
It is such an easy connection. Most people will not slam the door in their face because they're just programmed socially not to be an asshole. Right, so they'll keep the door.
Most of them.
Most of them. Right. Most of them. Depends on the city.
But that's okay. I'm not talking about New Orleans.
No, New Orleans is good. I'm talking like.
But you know what? It's even the ones that do slam the door in the face, it's, and that's rare. Like, it really is rare. But if it does happen, it's a skill. It's just you're learning a skill of attitude maintenance. Like, this business is hard, right? It's not easy, right? And it takes a thick skin. It takes a positive attitude. And it takes the ability to maintain your attitude in adverse situations. A slam of the door, somebody telling you to F off on the phone when you're cold calling somebody. Like, that's attitude maintenance. Like, we all have to build that skill. We're in sales. We're going to get more no's than we get yeses. And you've got
I always look at that as fuel to the fire.
Right.
So it is nothing more than adding energy to me when you tell me no, because it gets me that much closer to the next yes.
Oh yeah, it's the law of averages.
Well, if you look at David Goggins, if you guys haven't read Can't Hurt Me, okay, he talks about callousing the mind. Okay, and it's just like, you're callousing the hands. You're doing these things, and all of this repetition, like, if you chopping down trees the first, week, month, you can have blisters if you chop it down, but as it grows, your hands toughen. He talks about callousing the mind, huge part, and again, that's a big part, Lisa. I mean, I'm sure you're doing this, but studying those type of things, reading these type of books, listening to these podcasts, being inspired, being motivated, have a mindset for it, like deep breaths before you go for the walk. You have to do that.
Well, typically when I'm going to go door knock, I have a playlist that I play, and I get my psyched out self up with.
All right, what's the song? Tell us what's the song.
Well, let's see. Where do I start? First of all, I'm a Caribbean nut. As a matter of fact, we're leaving a week from Saturday to head to the Bahamas. So if it's anything Caribbean related, I'm in. I like some of the Kenny Chesney style Caribbean country pop, whatever you want to call that.
Okay. Kenny Chesney's big Bahamas guy, so for sure.
Yeah. So I will play anything Margaritaville style to get me, because for me, my fuel for fire is to travel. I do this because I love to travel. And I love to take my kids on vacation. So if I can put myself in that mindset of, okay, this is going to pay for my next vacation, that is where I know I can get that fuel to say, all right, I can do anything. Because if I know that it's going to make me a paycheck to pay for my next vacation, then I'm good.
I'll tell you, Lisa,
more than the pain it takes to walk up to that front door.
Exactly.
Lisa, have you ever heard of the app? And I don't know if you guys haven't. I wanted to mention this in the other call, but it's called Spot.io. Have you seen that before?
I haven't seen it.
Check it out, guys. This is an amazing app. It's strictly for sales teams who door knock. And it'll actually, because one of our big things that we mentioned, we used to draw it out. We had a map, okay? Everybody knows what a map is nowadays? But we used to have a map, and we would circle and scratch out. Now, Spot.io, and I've been using this for probably, 6, 7, 8 years. It'll actually, when you contact somebody, because one thing I used to do is I'd say, like, Mrs. Smith, I'd have a great conversation. I would take a picture of her house. I'd write a note on it, and then I would send a handwritten note card. Spot.io, I mean, you literally say contact this, put it in, and it's all in one system, and then you can manage your team all together. I mean, look, this is the app, Spot. You probably can't say Spot.io.
I will have to check that out. So
And it's
can I
cool.
tell you how I started doing my little system
Go for
with
it. Yes.
what you're talking about, which is interesting because I do the same thing. I will take a picture of the house and I will email it to myself. Within the subject line, I put DK, what the address is, if I talk to that person, what their name is, and in the email I would put any notes that I talk to them. So I use that as an opportunity, and then I email it to myself, and then I go back to those emails and I sort my emails by DK.
Nice.
I do the same thing with for sale by owner and FSBO and what the address is, put the notes in the email. So whenever I go to do my lead gen pieces, I will sort my emails and they go into a specific folder, so that anything that has an FSBO for sale by owner or a DK on it, it's in that specific folder, and I go down that for my lead gen time.
Guys, I mean, I hope y'all heard that, and this is something
archaic, but it works.
No, it's not. No, that's a system, and that's what we talk about. Like, we teach a lot about 7 success S's and things like that. Systems. I mean, you know how many times I did? I mean, a learning lesson on my door knocking and my evolution in the business too was not having systems to continue to follow up with these people. I couldn't even tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I know my team personally left on the table. I mean, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, and I'll tell you, I think we all leave money on the table because there's never going to be a perfect system. And at some point, there's always money left on the table. It's just, how do you go back to tweak that system? And every time you do it, you get better and better at it so that you leave less and less money on the table.
Yeah, Kaizen.
For sure. That's good stuff. Well, Lisa, what I do want to talk about, you just recently rebranded, and I love the new logo, by the way. So, if people can find you on Facebook, and when we started chatting last night, I looked at it. I mean, it looks amazing. Tell us about the rebrand. What's going on with that?
So we were known as the Harris Homes Team up until January of this year, and we rebranded and did a new logo, and we are the Lower Latitudes Property Group. So we're the Lower Latitudes Team. Part of that goes back to my love for the Caribbean, and also because of the fact that we have an expansion team in the Florida area and have a lot of connections with Florida. I eventually have a goal of having a team in the Caribbean to cover several of the Caribbean islands. So that's my next big step, that we're heading down that direction. So that was part of the inspiration for the Lower Latitudes. And for me, we always, in this business, we come across a lot of attitudes. So I have this kind of saying where I say, hey, lower the attitude. Nice. So we're at Lower Latitudes.
I love it. I love it.
Because that puts me in a good frame of mind.
I love it because my transition too with our growth of our evolution of our team that we're kicking into place. At Homes and City, and we also have the Homes and Beach, which is like the sister brand of Homes and City. My goal is, like, I almost made that transition to like southern part of Florida, West Palm Beach, Miami, or somewhere around there, because I want to sail a catamaran back to like the Bahamas and whatnot. And it was funny, one of my clients here in New Orleans, it was interesting. We were talking the other day about to sell his house in the Irish Channel. And he's like, man, Anthony, I just sailed to the Bahamas. I'm like, hold up. Wait, you sailed from New Orleans to the Bahamas? He's like, yeah. What do you mean? I'm like, holy shit. Okay. Wait, have you ever thought about that? Because that'd be...
So that is a big rock of mine and my husband's, and actually we constantly are looking at sailboats. I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube channel. There's a family that actually, their whole entire family, they sail the world.
Sailing Satar?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love them.
Yep.
Love them.
And so my husband has this aspiration. He says, eventually we're gonna sell everything. We're not gonna own any real estate except for a boat and a boat slip.
I got chills. Like those guys, if you haven't checked out the YouTube video on the channel, Sailing Zatara, Live in Hakuna is a good one too. I mean, if you want to talk about people who just said they packed it up, like that family was living in Dallas, packed it up, and they live on this big catamaran, and it's an amazing. I think, we probably spent, they have probably 1,000 episodes now. We probably spent a good week watching all of them. But yeah, it's a big goal for me. Big, crazy goal for me as a catamaran and sail.
So we have actually, we go to the Caribbean, one of the Caribbean islands, at least once a year, if not 3 or 4 times a year. Very nice. And as a matter of fact, we're leaving to go to the Bahamas next week. Virgin Islands is kind of our go-to. We've been to Jamaica, St. Lucia, Aruba, you name it. And part of my next checklist, I have been fortunate enough to be able to have traveled to all 50 of the United States in my lifetime.
Very nice.
And I hit that. I had a goal to do that before I turned 50, as I wanted to be in all 50 states.
That's my new goal.
Was able to accomplish that. So my next goal is I want to be able to cover all of the major Caribbean islands and all 7 continents. So that's my next big checklist that I want to hit.
Love
And
that.
I'm okay. We're actually looking at doing there's a sales school that you can go and get your full certification that you can go through I can't remember which island it is that you fly to now, but my son he's 17 and he wants to get his captain's license, and he actually wants to work on the boats in the Caribbean. That's his big goal.
I have a big one in the Exumas. I don't know if that's where you were looking, but that was one of the big schools right there. We looked into it too.
It's not Exuma. I want to say that it's further south because you're actually selling back up. And it's not Barbados, but it's somewhere near the Barbados area because one of the stops is in Barbados.
Very nice.
So we actually have a goal for my son, my husband, and myself. My daughter is 10 and she says, I have no desire to get my captain's license. You guys go do that. I'll sail and I'll lay out and be the little princess on the boat. I'm good with that. So the 3 of us we have a goal to be able to go within the next year to go do the sailing school and do all the islands. And that's part of what the whole Lower Latitudes thing came from. My change in all of that really actually started because of the fact that I have so many clients that are good friends of mine, and they tell me, you are always traveling. You are always going and I said, I work and work this hard, and I'm available to my clients the way that I am in order for me to really, truly unplug whenever I go on vacation. And I had, with Harris Homes, I had this challenge that because it was my last name and it was my husband's last name, they always wanted us. And they always connected it to just us being if you didn't have the Harrises, rather than one of our other agents on our team, which are just as well qualified, then you didn't have the owner of the team servicing you. So I'm like, I got to get my name out of this. And since they tease me so much about how much I travel, let's really make it some fun so that they still associate it with us, but not directly.
Yeah, but it speaks to you too, and it speaks to you've built a business with intention. It delivers the lifestyle of your dreams. Like we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. We just had Ramon just talked about it.
Yeah, how much power we have as agents. Like we have such a flexible industry, low barrier to entry. There is unlimited potential, especially if you get into different business models and things like that. It's incredible what you can actually achieve as far as a lifestyle. Like I live in Tulum. I live down in the Caribbean too. I love it. I've been traveling all the islands as well. St. Lucia was the last one that I went to. Lovely island. It was amazing. And most people don't think far enough outside of the box to realize that wow, you can change your paradigm. You can not just change your paradigm, you can change your entire existence just by applying energy to a business in the right way. And so you're a perfect example of doing that. Anthony actually shared something the other day. What was it, Anthony? It was 10x your goals. If you want to hit a goal, don't just try to hit that goal, hit 10 times that goal. Right. So for you just hit, 50 states and all that. And wonderful. Now you want to hit all these continents and everything else. So at the very least, you're going to hit a number of different places where you're going to be able to enjoy your life and have that lifestyle just by setting that huge goal. Do you find that goal setting? Do you find that really visualizing and every single is moving you towards getting you to that next goal? Do you think that's important for agents to be able to do?
It is very, very key in what we do. And it's actually a part of our team as well. Everybody on our team, when we sit down and plan for our year, the first thing I ask them to do in our planning process is to lay out their personal goals. What do you want to accomplish this year? What do you want to accomplish 3 years from now? And what do you want to accomplish 5 years from now? And if you don't know what that is and what that vision is, you have nothing to hit. You don't have a target. And so everybody on our team has a personal goal. And I ask them to do their personal goal first, because if you're working and you're working as hard as you're working, but you don't have a personal goal to shoot for, how hard you work doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a difference if you're not going to end up with an end result that you're going to be happy with. And so if you can't meet those personal goals with as hard as you're working, why bother?
You're building something big, Lisa, and I want to touch upon this. You had mentioned how you went from the Harris team to the Lower Latitude team. This is guys. If you're paying attention to any of our mega mornings, okay, we're seeing this repetitive where real estate agents are taking themselves out a little bit. We mentioned it with Ramon the other day, and bringing it to a brand that everybody can be bought into. Everybody can feel like they're a part of, and as a mega agent, sometimes we got to put our ego aside. It's the same reason why, Dustin and I have shifted to the homes and cities, the homes and beach, team also too, because everyone can build up in that brand and then you can globalize it. I mean, it's amazing. Right. I mean, that's a part that I hope people are seeing and understanding. And look, there's nothing wrong with having your team named after you. Don't get me wrong. I had the Gazette group in New Orleans, and it was a thing. I'll never forget. I was having a conversation with another agent the other day. They said, Anthony, it's probably the best thing that you've done as far as your team or your business, which changed it from Gazette to something else. Because no one wants to work for you under your name forever. Now, unless we did mention like Barbara Corcoran.
We did the same thing last year as the Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team, right? And I knew that it was a placeholder for me to be able to transition into the space that I wanted to be in, which is where we're at now. And I'm glad that I did, because it's a pain in the ass. And you're right. No one wants to join long term. Anybody that is the quality of agents that we're looking for to grow with, to partner with, they don't want to work for somebody else. They don't want to be an employee. They want to be a business partner. They want to have an alignment, right? So working on somebody else's named team, unless you are an absolute monster out in the field and you own the turf, like you own the city, right? At that point in time, they have no choice. They're like, sure, I'll be a part of that because you're such a big name. But other than that,
even then, I think it's still.
I think it's a great name for you.
I think it's still localized though. When you do that, even with a great name, don't get me wrong, it works. Mm-hmm. There's some badass teams out there who did it, but I mean, I think localized, and one thing I know our vision, and Lisa, you've seen it too, and I love it. You created this brand, and this brand is your vision. And I mean, how excited do you get talking about this? Because I see it in you.
It's fun for me from the perspective of, and when we researched it and started figuring out, okay, what do we want to be known for, and how are we going to choose this? We started going and looking at, what websites are out there. How does this connect? When we started thinking outside of the Harris Homes team and saying, okay, what do we want that name to be, and what do we want that to look like? What personality do we want that brand to have? It was fun for us because it is still very much about our personality, and those that know my husband and myself, they know the connection. They understand why we named it what we named it, and the Lower Latitudes team has a personality, but it's not just our personality. And the cool thing about what's happened with it is our team got really excited about that because it changed the perspective on our own growth and where we could go. And they got excited about it because then they started saying, okay, where else can we take this? And I've had conversations with and I very much consider the agents on our team partners. They're not employees. They are truly our partners, and they've helped us build this brand just as well. And they have really been able to give a different perspective because of us removing the last name, and they've thought outside the box, and they now come to us with other ideas that before they didn't come to us with. So it's really expanded what our thought process is. And we also, we live on Lake Murray, and a couple of our buyers agents on our team live on Lake Murray. And the cool thing about that is we trademarked Lake Life to the fullest.
Wow.
So in trademarking Lake Life to the fullest, the next step that we are taking is to be able to use that brand connected with the Lower Latitudes, because we sell a lot of homes on Lake Murray. And we are in process of beginning to do YouTube channels and put videos out there about the area and about Lake Murray and the history of Lake Murray and pieces of that in order to expand, which kind of goes with that brand of that Lower Latitudes. It's being on the water. And those next steps got them excited because we're now reaching out to the boat dealers on the lake and saying, hey, how can we partner with you? Because when we have people moving from the north, they're coming down, they don't have a boat. They don't even know what kind of boat to get.
They don't even know what a boat looks like.
So we're going and taking that brand to the next level.
Awesome. Well, at least I love this, and I'll tell you, I think we're going to continue this conversation a lot too. Because we're running kind of parallel, doing the same exact thing. I love talking to amazing people like yourself. And guys, look, if you're on the live right now, I mean, if what Lisa just said, these statements in the last half an hour hasn't excited you or piqued some interest, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you at this point. But look, ask some questions. If you're on the live, look, get some comments. I mean, it's a big thinker growing a massive brand. I mean, look, ask some questions. What can you guys, or what do you want to know from Lisa?
We got a question from Jay here. What's the average transaction volume for your team partners?
Repeat that. Say that again.
What's the average transaction volume for your team members?
For our team members. So let me kind of break that down for you, because I do have 2 team members. I don't want to call them part-time because that's not really what they are. I have one that last year, he typically would do around 30, a little over 30 transactions himself. But last year he went to a place of doing about more like 20 just because of some family issues. So he took a few steps back, and it allowed us to be able to help him do that. And he's now ramping his business back up this year. And he will do his target goal for this year is to do 32 transactions. The majority of those on my team are doing at least 20 to 30 transactions. So if that kind of gives you a perspective, that's where most of them are. My husband has his license, but he really does more of the back end of the business side of things and handling all of the business related pieces. He will do a couple of transactions every once in a while. As a matter of fact, I tease him and tell him he's not as good at it as I am. I primarily concentrate on the listings. It's because I love listings, and it's what I've done pretty much from my second, third year in the business. I switched over and leveraged out all the buyers to the buyer's agents on the team. I now have 2 team members that are doing dual. They're doing some listings and buys.
Nice.
They were set up so that they would go with me on listing appointments. They would set those appointments up, and then they would transition them off to me. If they were handling that, if they were bringing that lead in, then I gave them the buy side and I handled the listing side, and we worked it together as a team. And those 2 agents are now getting to a place where they're comfortable enough doing those listing appointments on their own, and they're able to do listings and buys as well. And so they're starting to pick that up and do more listings. And we're really shifting our business this year so that the 3 of us together are really focusing on doing more of the listings. And of course, we all know right now listings are cash in your pocket because of the crazy market that we're in, multiple offers and everything else going on. So we tend to focus a lot more effort on whatever we can do to get more listings, because we know that those are going to end up getting us more buyers.
Yeah, Anthony and I were actually through Mega Momentum. We're probably going to be putting together a panel pretty soon of some mega agents to talk specifically about how to get more listings in a seller's market. So that's going to be a fun.
Gotta get creative.
That'll be a fun conversation. We got another question here for you. All right. Do you find that your team partners' transaction volumes grew as part of the team?
Very much so. So the cool thing that I will say about the process of building a team, and let me give you a good example so that you can kind of digest this. When Jim and Brandy came on my team when I was in my 3rd year in the business, and Jim and Brandy were fairly new as well, they were really only doing maybe 10, 12 transactions a year. They were not these big high producers. They have really, really shifted their business. And the key to that whole process for us is that we all wanted to be able to have quality life. Absolutely. We all wanted to be able to actually go on vacation and go and unplug. We wanted to be able to support each other. So the fun thing for us is we all have families. We love, and we are very family oriented. Typically we're getting together for holidays with all of our families. We don't see our team as just that team member. It is truly a family business for us. So the cool thing about seeing them grow and expand to go from these agents being, at a place of 10 to 12 transactions to now they're doing well over 24 to 30, transactions a piece, is that we've been able to support each other so that we still have quality of life with our families. And if somebody's going on vacation and they've got inspections, they let that client know, no worries, I've got you covered. We have a team behind us, and you're going to have someone that's very well qualified be there for your inspections. And one of us will go for them, and vice versa. We do the same thing. So it makes our quality of life really, really high level. And because we have high quality admins, we have 2 admins on our team, one that handles the listing side and one that handles the buyer side. And because of them, it allows them to pass that piece off to them so that admin can handle the closing coordination piece at a high level. They still get to provide a high level of customer service. And in addition, they get to go get the next buyer and not and really concentrate on the lead generation piece rather than scheduling inspections and doing all the follow-up with the attorney and doing all the follow-up with the lender and was the appraisal ordered and all those pieces. That's what the closing coordinator does for them to be able to go get the next one.
Nice.
Hopefully that helps.
With your team structure, are you on a, if you don't mind sharing, are you guys do a 50-50 split, admin support, all that fun stuff?
So it's different for buy than listing. So
Gotcha.
Typically our buys are 50-50. There are a few instances where if it's their direct family member, sphere of influence, things like that, there is a little bit more on that goes to the agent on those. Now on the listing side of it, obviously there's more expense and there's more time that is spent up front on the listing.
Absolutely.
There's more marketing, there's signs, there's lock boxes. So all those things on the other end of that, those splits are less. So they're not a 50-50. And they're also based upon they're based upon how they came into that lead. If it's a lead that I gave them and passed off to them, then it's less because I've done the upfront work to be able to pass that listing lead off to them. If it's their own that they've generated, then it's a little bit higher. So it's adjustable based upon where the lead came from.
And so I'm going to assume, and this may be an assumption, you've read that red book a few times, right?
9 times.
Yeah. Everything guys, look, there's a Bible, okay, in this business. And she is repeating things that, in this book. I mean, so awesome. I know, Dustin, we have another question, right?
Mm-hmm. We do. And I do want to speak to that because, Jay was asking, did the transactions grow? Teams are the very best incubator for any agent at any level of their game. It doesn't matter if you're a newer agent, you're still struggling to get 2 deals a month off, or if you are a seasoned veteran that's already making $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Yep.
You want to grow your business to the next level. Surround yourself with people that are doing it and be a part of a team environment and a group that gives you the support and the structure that you need, so you don't have to focus all your time and energy on everything. You can just focus on the things that actually grow your business. So, and that's just a proof of concept right there. Like almost every single team that I see, agents do more on the team, make more money on the team, even though they're giving the team a split, they still make way more money as a member of the team than they can solo. I see it time and again.
If you compare
it's about being able to do, first of all, quality,
absolutely,
rather than just the quantity, because you're doing quality. The other thing that I will tell you that I've seen in my team members is their price points went up.
I know. I know.
Yeah, their price points.
But you're surrounding yourself with bigger, better people. For sure.
Correct. You're
exactly.
correct. So when we all started in this business our first year, we all look back on this and we kind of joke because my average price point when I started my first year in the business was around 180, 185,000. My average price point now in my transaction for me personally, not just my team, but me personally, is now well over the 275 mark. Yeah. And the really crazy thing that we see is our agents are seeing their price points also increase. And it's not just the coalition in the fact that our markets are going up. It's that they are intentionally going for different listings and different buyers that have put them into a different realm and a different bracket. That, by the way, if you realize that when you sell a $350,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 home, the referrals you get from that are typically in that same price point.
Typically.
And the buyers you get from that are typically in that same price point.
Think
Yeah.
about this. You mentioned Tampa Bay earlier. Okay, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Look, I'm a Saints fan, so I don't like Tampa Bay, but I'm just going to prove one point here. You know, if you had a football team, I compare like our team building to the NFL football a lot because it's my jam. But think
Yeah.
about this. If you had a team with a bunch of rookies, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year rookies, you'll never win a Super Bowl. You'll come close. Look at these seasoned veterans like Tom Brady. You want to talk about a leader? Tom Brady could have went anywhere on any team and made probably $100 million, probably the highest quarterback paid ever. Yet he went to Tampa Bay, took less money, built this rather self-destructing team, first year to the Super Bowl. Okay, guys, if you align yourself with the right team, with the right veterans, the right rookies, and a combination of all, you will win. It doesn't matter. Again, that's why they have free agency. I mean, think about it. You can get these badasses in the business to come join forces with you for a bigger brand, a bigger idea, a bigger vision. I mean, look, if you want to compare to Tampa Bay, go look at Tampa Bay statistically since John Gruden when they last won a Super Bowl. They were horrible.
You will rise to the occasion. And one of my coaches will say, and they repeat this to me over and over, and I repeat it to others as well. And it's kind of funny because they say thoroughbreds don't run with the donkeys.
Wow. Yep.
And
Yep.
and it's true, because when you run with those that are at a higher level and you are learning from those and you're within those higher level groups, you are only as strong as your weakest link.
Yep.
So when you have a team, you are only as strong as what the weakest link on your team is. So in order to raise your bar and do higher production and be better, you have got to go find someone else to be the mentor, the coach, or the person that you want to follow and emulate. You got to go find those people. My challenge that I had whenever I started in this business was in my market center where I was, there were not, and it's kind of comical to me now, there were not mega agents like what we talk about today.
Yeah.
And this was just 7 years ago. It didn't
Same.
exist. And it's kind of funny because we've seen this fuel added to this fire for these mega teams and these mega agents. Matter of fact, whenever I got into the business, I went and interviewed 15 different brokerages. I interviewed them and I narrowed down to 8 brokerages. And then I went to training for 6 of those brokerages before I ever hung my license with one of them. And I went to the training classes and I wanted to know what that training looked like, because I knew when I got in this business, number one, I passed it. I took a licensing class to be able to pass a test. I wanted to know how you get to where you're going on the other end. And I wanted to know who was going to get me there. So
That's right.
when I told them I wanted to make $100,000 my first year in the business, a lot of those brokerages patted me on the back and said, "Oh, honey, it's okay. You know, most agents don't do more than 6 to 10 transactions their first year. You don't have to do that much." That was the response that I got.
Oh, that
So I
was-
knew immediately that's not who I wanted to be with.
Well, you
That's
think
not
about
who I
those
wanted to run
companies,
with.
Lisa, when they brag about getting the $1 million pin in a year, and I'm like, wait,
I'm like,
what?
dude,
I'm
what?
like, and I miss it.
I mean,
That's
like,
when I
that
first
was my
got
first quarter.
right. When I first got in the business too, I remember I walked in. I was at Keller Williams. I walked into the market center and I went to the person at the desk and said, "Who's the best agent here?"
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, so I went and knocked on the doors and asked them, I said, "What are you doing?" And they told me, but you know what? No one mentioned to me at the time, not one person. Even there was a team that they didn't consider themselves make. No one mentioned coaching.
No.
And so when I found out, I was like, okay, what's this coaching thing? Day one, like you, I did the same thing. I hired a coach. Day one.
So the cool thing that I look back on whenever I look at those systems and those models, the first class that set me up from success from the very, very beginning was that I sat down and it's kind of funny looking back on it. I was in the back of the corner and I was that irritating person that asked 20 jillion questions to the instructor in this class. It was a business planning clinic.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted to make $100,000 my first year in the business. How do I get there? What's the roadmap look like? What are the steps that I needed to take? And of course, we always say, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Great. What's the elephant look like? What is that? So when I sat in that class for business planning and I started mapping out and figuring out, okay, I need a coach, I need somebody to hold me accountable, and I need somebody to give me the direction so that I could set the right systems up. The cool thing is I realized how simple it really was to make $100,000 in this business is not rocket science. It's
No,
really not.
It's not that hard.
And when they started laying out and they said, look, all you got to do is 2 to 3 transactions a month. If you do 2 to 3 transactions a month, then you can do 36 transactions a year.
Yep.
And you'll more than make 100. And I'm not in a mega market. I mean, you're talking about my price point was $185,000 was our average market price point at that point.
I got the same thing, Lisa. Same thing. People, I'll never forget when I first started selling. People, I remember an agent walked into the office one time and she's like, "Oh, Anthony, you guys work with those first time home buyers." And I'm like, "Man, I'm doing the math." I'm like, $100,000 house. And granted, look, it's a little more hand holding and babysitting when you know. But the fact is, I mean, $150,000 house. I mean, at 3%, that's $4,500.
So let me tell you about a first-time home buyer and people with the attitude of, oh, it's just first-time home buyers. I did a walkthrough yesterday with my first year in the business. A first-time home buyer bought their first home from me, and it was a $145,000 house. Let me give you this as a scenario. Now, keep in mind, 2014 to now is only a little over 7 years. And that first-time home buyer at $145,000 that they bought that house, within 3 years came back to me and said, "Okay, I'm ready for a bigger house." And I said, "Are you sure you're ready for that bigger house?" She was getting married. They were having kids. So she said, "Yep, I'm ready." So they went from a $145,000 house to a $225,000 house. And guess what the walkthrough for their house that they're now buying was yesterday?
How much?
$375,000.
Yep.
Okay, so in a 7-year time frame, I've now done. Now keep this in mind. I helped them buy their first house. I helped them sell it. I helped them buy the second house. I helped them sell it. I'm helping them. I just put their house under contract, so that one's under contract, and then they're buying a $375,000 house. That's 4 transactions from that $145,000 first-time home buyer in 7 years.
Lifetime value of that relationship is unheard of if you do it right.
And I can't tell you how many people that client has sent to me because they're one of my Sphere core referral partners. And if they see something on Facebook, they're tagging me in it. If they've got somebody that's I mean, they've sent me so much business. And Morgan and Jason are truly, I don't look at them as just clients. They are friends, they are family, our kids are similar in age. And that is a lifetime relationship. So that is what I would call a forever client. And we hashtag that as hashtag forever client.
That's awesome. We talk about that a lot on the call, actually. Almost every mega agent that we talk to focuses on relationship selling as opposed to transactional. And if you guys are listening right now, like, you really need to pay attention to this. If you don't have a relationship mindset around your business, you're leaving so much money on the table, and your cost of sale is so expensive when it doesn't have to be. It can be a lot easier and it can be a lot faster. We do have a bunch of questions, actually. So how about we plow through a couple of the questions here, because we want to get questions from people, and let's get some answers. So Anthony, what was that app that you had?
Spot.io. That was one of my systems. And guys, Austin, you're in our coaching program too, man. We're going to break this down a lot, and I think we're going to convince Lisa to come in and talk some more to our coaching clients too about this. But Spot.io was what I was using at the time when I was door knocking at a high level. And I think he asked, what's some of the systems you use, and do you have a specific name, Lisa, at all?
So typically and it depends, if it's door knocking around an open house, then we will give credit to the open house, not just door knocking, because we typically will door knock around an open house. If it is door knocking just for the purpose of listing, to be able to gather more listings, we mark that in our system as a DK. So we know it's a door knock lead. And we're using KV Core. We used to use Sync before we came over to in January when we came over to EXP.
We're so in common, it's crazy. Same thing.
So Sync and KV Core were very similar for what our team utilized. And so we'll mark it, and we tag it in the lead as a DK if it's just looking for the purpose of a listing. If it's around an open house that we're door knocking, then we will contribute it to the open house for that purpose.
Okay, very cool.
Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I think it probably does. All right, so let us know, Austin, if you have any more questions. Michael has a question. What is the proven strategy to dominate listings in the current seller's market? Does it have anything to do with door knocking, perhaps, in your opinion?
There's a lot of that goes around with door knocking when we do an open house. And I will tell you this, leveraging the listings that you have is truly key.
That's a game changer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's the way you get more listings. Now, and let me kind of explain how our system works with this. Because we are in this market that is crazy, insane, busy, fast paced, and we're dealing with a lot of multiple offers, and it almost doesn't matter what price point it is anymore. So this is our system. We typically will put a listing in on late Wednesday or late Thursday, depending on a couple of things on schedule. And we will typically put it into the MLS as late as we possibly can in that day. And we will typically ask for a 2-hour showing notice. This is why, because then they can't schedule a showing on that day. So if we put it in at 5, 6 o'clock and we ask for a 2 hours notice, they don't have enough time and showing time to be able to request a showing that day. So showings won't start till the next day. We go in and we will block off showings for the morning of that next morning. So you can't schedule showings until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody goes, why you do that? Because they think showings are already scheduled. So they immediately in their mind think, oh my God, I got to get in this house. It creates a frenzy of I got to get in this house. Okay.
When an agent would call me, I'll tell you, you want to hear a secret? Agent would call me, Anthony. How many showings have y'all had? Oh God, like we got 5 showings back to back. And look, sometimes I have none.
So this is the fun part of it. So Friday night, obviously the revolving door opens up, right? And we schedule our showings so that they literally are back to back and they can overlap if it's a vacant home.
Wow.
COVID or not, you're going to take the certain precautions. You're going to let somebody else go in, use some common sense. And we actually put that in the listing. Use some common sense around this. If it's an occupied home, then we block it off because we want them to see the person coming out and going in when it comes to the showings, because it creates a little bit more of a frenzy. So if they're back to back and they know there's 5 people and they're lined up out the curb, and they're in there like 15-minute showing increments, then you get more of this frenzy. So we will do an open house on it on Saturday, and if it's vacant, we're doing it Saturday and Sunday. The other thing that we do is we go in, if we're pretty sure this house is going to go under multiple offer, the cool thing about this is we will say seller request to review all potential, keyword, potential offers Sunday at 6 p.m.
Nice.
So we've now got our 2 open houses in. Now, I didn't say I had multiple offers, but they automatically don't read that. Something about agents, we don't read. We're so fast paced, we just skim right through it. They don't read that word potential. They just automatically assume you have multiple offers. In some cases we do. Some cases we don't. And that has created options for me where there have been times where I've actually gotten an offer over asking price when I didn't even have any other offers on the table.
Well, blocking it out like that
way
is interesting because you got a team, Lisa. You know, and I mean, if you block those showings out, that's a time your team is. Because look, I tell my team all the time, we want to sell our listings. I mean, when I go on a listing appointment, it wasn't that, hey, I'm going to, it was, hey, I'm going to market your listing to all these other agents. But that's what my team's here for. My agents on this team, our agents on this team, our business partners, I want them to sell it. Like I went to a restaurant last night and we were eating out, and it was, I loved the way, like the lady said 5 times, the chef recommends the IE tuna salad. I mean, and then a lady I was with, she's like, oh, what do you recommend? Oh, look, the IE tuna salad's awesome. It was like, that was what they were selling. And the same thing is like, you get those agents. So that time you block them out, because some people will be like, oh no, she's cheating. You can't do that. No, bullshit. You block that out, and then you tell your team members, guys, you got 4 hours to go sell this house. Go get the damn work. Do your job.
And that's the other thing, is I typically will put it up to our team members first. They know when those listings are coming. Right. We actually have 3 circumstances right now where I have a 6 domino effect in a row where we had a buyer looking for a specific listing. We went and door knocked. We found that listing.
Wow.
That seller is now looking for another one. We went and door knocked and found that person what they were looking for. And that person is now buying a new construction. There are 6 deals all in a row. They're all done off market. And we door knocked for us to be able to find the first buyer. We door knocked and said, okay, this is the neighborhood they want to be in. Let's go find it. I've got a buyer looking for this neighborhood. And that ended up leading me to the next one. I've got a buyer looking for this neighborhood. And we did all those deals are all completely off market. I have three of those scenarios going right now. So to go back to answer the question on the leveraging of those listings, the cool thing about that is what happens in the neighborhood is all the neighbors see what's going on.
Absolutely.
So when we're going to go door knock on Thursday and Friday around that listing, and we're doing our door knocking spiel, we let them know, hey, I just wanted to give you a courtesy to let you know that you're going to see a lot of activity this weekend with the open house that we are doing, because we're selling 123 Main Street down the road. And I'm sure you may know the Smiths that live there. If you happen to know of anybody else that we can help, please let us know, because we have a pretty good feeling you're going to see a lot of activity going on around this. Have you recently looked at what your home value looks like? Because I imagine that house is going to go under multiple offer, and we may have some more buyers looking in this neighborhood. So awesome. You plant the seed, and that's your first door knock. Then you go back and you will send a postcard out whenever you sold that home and tell them, I've sold this house over multiple offer. I still have buyers looking in your neighborhood. Who do you know looking to make a move? You go back and you door knock it again.
That's right. You're
telling me touch that neighborhood 3 times. Don't you think that at some point you become the expert for that neighborhood and they start seeing you because you have done, and you only have to have one listing. By the way, you can do this with someone else's listing too.
I was just going to say that. Yep. That's exactly right.
And I've done it many times. I've done it. I have used that listing and said, hey, did you know how many homes in the neighborhood have sold and how many have sold over the asking price? And you will go and leverage that listing. And it doesn't have to be yours. Go door knock that neighborhood anyway and show them what has happened in that neighborhood. That's right. Become an expert in that neighborhood.
That's amazing. That's absolutely, I love your door knocking technique. You're telling a story in stages, and it's just taking the consumer, AKA all those people in that neighborhood, down a path that ends up signing listings with you. That's a beautiful thing. And you're sourcing your own deals as well. That's actually one of the techniques that I use is from team leader to team leader. My double ender rate was about 4.6%. I got it to 16, a little under 17%. Double ending on every single deal, just using techniques like that, making my agents aware that we had listings, using systems like that, we were able to double end properties and find and source off-market properties for our buyers, things like that. And as a team leader, as a business owner, going for like peanuts as far as a ratio on double enders to almost 17%, that's like pure bottom line. That just goes right to the red. It's awesome.
It's really fun too whenever you start to get to know the neighbors, because you've door knocked it so many times. They go, oh, hi, Lisa, how are you?
That's
funny. You know what? There's a technique that I teach in door knocking as well, which is to actually create a list of inventory in a neighborhood. So when you're door knocking, you actually have, let's say, 1,000 homes. If you've got 1,000 homes in your door knocking neighborhood in your geographical area that you're farming, you should also have 1,000 addresses, 1,000 phone numbers, 1,000 emails, and 1,000 names. And as you're going through, you're updating that list all the time. And you get to know people. Like, imagine going up to the door and saying, hey, Bob, I saw you like 6 months ago. Just wanted to say, hey, how's it going? Just let you know we got another listing down the street. And he's like, who the hell are you? Oh, yeah, you came by a while ago. He's just like, no, I'm your friendly neighborhood realtor. This is my turn, right?
That's why it's taking notes. I mean, like, there have been times when, like, oh, hey, we can't talk right now. The wife's sick or the kid's got this. And you knock back in. Hey, how's the wife doing? I'll tell you, that's what prospecting too, guys. That's what people don't realize. Like, I used to make a lot of phone calls, and I would call like a for sale by owner, and they'd be like, hey, you know what? We kind of had the situation with the family. I would literally write them a whole handwritten note card saying, hey, I hope everything's okay, blah, 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 and follow up in a week or two. I was like, man, how's the wife feeling? He'd be like,
the key is in the follow-up. That is the key.
Huge.
The key is all in the follow-up. And it doesn't matter whether it's an expired listing or for sale by owner, or if it's door knocking, or if it's becoming an expert in the neighborhood. Any of that is all about the key is in the follow-up. Because a good example, I had a for sale by owner that I had been after him for almost 8 months. He took it off, put it on, took it off, put it on. A couple of different times he would put the sign out. And so the crazy thing is he had taken the sign off at one point because his mother passed away. I sent him a card, sympathy card, and said, is there anything that I can do? I know you're still trying to sell your house. It's not about the money. I just want to be able to see what I can do to help. Is there anything I can do to help? Please let me know. If it's a matter of you're traveling to where your mother is and I can watch your house, watch your dog, send a dog sitter, whatever that is, please let me know what I can do to help. So the crazy thing about that specific story is that it took me 8 months to get him to finally list that home with me, and he did. And I ended up with both sides of the deal because I did an open house on it, just like we talked about. I did an open house. Those people walked in, they didn't have an agent. And crazy enough, that particular buyer that purchased that home ended up referring me to the neighbor next door whenever because they became very good friends. They had moved in during that time frame, so they referred me to them. I sold that house and ended up selling 2 more houses, all because I followed it with a for sale by owner for 8 months and just developed a relationship. It was about the relationship, and that relationship led to me being able to become the neighborhood expert. And it was probably that's almost $4 million worth of volume just in a few homes that I did, because they were $400 to $500,000 price points.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's all about the follow-up. A lot, you know what? I was reading some studies earlier, and we gotta cut the call in a minute because we actually just went a little bit long because such a great conversation. But yeah, the gold is in the follow-up. It was just unbelievable to me when I was reading the NAR stats that 50% of realtors will not even call a lead once. A lead comes in and they won't even call it once, 50%. So that means that you get a lead coming in, and so what? They may have called 2 or 3 other people. They ain't calling them. And guess what? Out of all the leads that do get called, majority of agents only call them one time, not 6 or 7 times, not 8 times, not 15 times, 1 time. And if you actually get past 3 to 4 times, if you can call a lead 3-4 times, you've got a 400 to 500% increase in your chances to be able to actually convert that into an appointment, into a contract. So it's just the goal.
When you think about this is one of the keys. And Jim on our team is phenomenal at this because he's the follow-up king as well. And we almost joke with him because he'll have people that are what you think are dead leads in our system. And he'll go back in the KV core system and go, okay, I haven't followed. And he has a system every 30 days. He's touching them somehow. And he says, until they tell me they're dead, I'm still following up with them. And so the crazy thing about that is that so many agents don't ever follow up with them again. And he's had one agent or one buyer that had him blocked on the phone because for the first call that he made or first thing that he put into realtor.com or whatever it was that he put his information in. And I don't remember how we got his information because we pay for very, very few leads. And so somehow we got this guy's information, and he had about 15 agents that called him right away the very first time. So this buyer was like, oh my God, stop the calls, stop. So he went through his phone and he blocked every single number in his phone because he was so tired of getting all these calls from all these agents. He said, I was just curious about what the price of this house was. I'm not ready to buy. Right. I'm not that interested. So the crazy thing is Jim followed up with him. He actually had his email address, and he's still communicating with him through email, even though he's leaving him messages, but the call was blocked. So he wasn't getting the messages. So you text him, the text went through, and the email went through, and he follows up with Jim and said, hey, you've been sending me emails for about 8 months. I'm ready to buy now. So he goes, okay, cool. I'm going to call you. So Jim calls him. The number is blocked. It doesn't come through. And he goes, I left you a voicemail. Did you get my voicemail? And he goes, I didn't even see the phone ring in the email. So he goes back in, and the guy goes, I am so sorry. I had your number blocked because when I started getting all those calls, I blocked all the agents. And he said, let me unblock you in my phone. Wow. So the key is in the follow-up and still emailing or texting or whatever. And this guy finally reached back out to Jim and unblocked him from his phone so he could actually do the transaction.
That's amazing. Try every single which way you could possibly do it too, because some people like to communicate in different ways, and they'll pay attention to a text as opposed to an email or something like that. So yeah, just be persistent, guys. Got to go after it. And if you want listings, they're out there. The neighborhoods are literally sitting there right now, and it's pretty nice. Get out there, start talking to people, knock on doors. We got an expert with Lisa Harris here sharing all those golden nuggets. So thank you so much, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Really, really appreciate you spending time.
That was amazing. I tell you, I'm glad we connected yesterday and you jumped on this. That was absolutely amazing. I resonate with so much you're saying. And like, we're gonna be good friends pretty soon because what you're doing is exactly what I do. So we're gonna be in communication.
Awesome. I'm happy to help. Please, if anybody's out there and they're watching this, don't hesitate. Reach out to me.
Yeah, tell them how to
call,
get you.
text, email. I'm happy to help in any way or answer any kind of questions. And let me know. You can look up Lower Latitudes Team and reach out to us. And we are in the Columbia, South Carolina area. We serve Lexington, Lake Murray, Chapin, Blythewood, Columbia. So if we can help you in South Carolina, please let us know. We are here to help you.
And Florida.
If it's just a matter of asking questions about team building, let me know that too. You can reach out to me and any way you've got, and I'll put all my contact information out to you guys so you can post it.
Awesome.
All right.
Lisa,
Super
amazing.
fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you are following us on YouTube. We got a goal. We got to hit our goal. So
Gotta hit 100, guys. Come on. Go subscribe to Lisa. Go subscribe to him if you did. Get on YouTube. Come subscribe for us. We got to hit 100. We got to get this mega momentum YouTube link set up. Come on, guys.
Awesome.
That's right. That's right. We're almost there. We're almost there. So please,
Almost there.
follow us on YouTube. The link is in the comments above. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you again on Tuesday
Hey,
morning.
guys. Coffee time. Cheers.
Yeah. Coffee and coaching with mega agents around the world. See you on the flip side. Ciao for now, everybody. And